This is Out Cincinnati on 91.7 WVXU. I'm sitting here in Skyline Chili in Covington with Mr. Jerry Springer. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me.
So, how's the podcast? I know you just came from it. How'd it go tonight?
I thought it went really well. I just love doing it because it gives me an opportunity, to be with my best friend for over 45 years. And we just, joke around a little bit. Then I do a political rant for about 10 minutes. And then we do the music. And the music is roots music. It's live, either bluegrass or folk. And we have artists come from all around the country into Ludlow and perform at the folk music coffee shop in Ludlow. And it's good stuff.
And it's such a cool place over there. Folks know you from the TV show, and so what got the podcast started? I mean, what gave you the idea? I want to sit down and talk with my friend. Obviously, that's always a good idea, but how'd you get rolling with that?
Well, I've always been political. I mean, I started out as a lawyer, but my first job was with Bobby Kennedy. And then for 10 years, I was city councilman and mayor of Cincinnati. So whatever other jobs I've had, politics has always been what I'm most concerned about. And I wanted an avenue to be able to express my political views outside of my regular job. And a podcast was a perfect opportunity to do that.
And it makes so much sense in 2019 to go that route, because that's how folks are getting information. I showed you a document when we sat down from 1978.
Yeah.
Now, what's your first thought when you see that document, and what did it mean when you signed it, and what's it mean to you now?
Well, I'm almost embarrassed that it is still an issue, that it still has to be an issue. But back then, this was June 24th of 1978, I was mayor, and I signed a proclamation declaring Lesbian Gay Pride Day. And it's no secret that Cincinnati, certainly back then, was an incredibly culturally conservative community. And to have a Cincinnati mayor at the time come out and declare a Gay Pride Day, I remember it was quite a bit of controversy when I did that. And I wasn't trying to be controversial. It just seemed like the right, decent, moral thing to do.
And what was the lay of the land in 78? I wasn't thought of in 78, yeah. So it's hard for me to. So what drove you to say we need to sign something? We need to listen to this population.
Well, gay, lesbian people were still all in the closet, and they had to be, because they were socially and economically ostracized, and they were discriminated against, and if they came out, they would their careers could be ruined. I remember even after that, when I was anchoring the news in Cincinnati for the NBC affiliate, I remember there were a couple of, and I won't give their names or anything, but a couple of people that worked at the station that came to talk to me privately in my office, and they were very nervous, and they let me know that they were gay, and they were, afraid that it would get out and they might lose their jobs. And,
that's still a reality today. I mean, it's you can be fired in many places.
Yes.
Just for that reason.
It's just, and it's just unthinkable. I mean, when we've got so much, hate and discrimination and racism and everything else going on in the world, why do we get upset? Because people love each other.
Why are we
why is that a punishment?
Involved in people's bedroom?
Exactly.
It's just kind of a...
Exactly. And it goes against everything that conservatives, like to think of themselves as. They want government out of our lives, but apparently not about out of the life that takes place in the bedroom.
And you're right, and it's the meddling, and I'll call it that, in lives. It has never made sense to me. So in 2019, if you were going to sign a proclamation, if you were the mayor, what needs to be done? I guess is my question. What would the proclamation say today?
Well, there ought to be more than proclamations. There ought to be there ought to be legislation which prohibits any kind of discrimination in the workplace, certainly in a public venue, any kind of discrimination based on a person's not just race, religion, ethnic group, etc., but also on their lifestyle, on their sexual orientation.
And we talk about those ordinances that are written now. It's kind of a trendy thing. I know Covington has one, a fairness ordinance.
Yeah. And I don't know why. What's embarrassing is that here in America, we're really going to argue about that anymore? I mean, what kind of people are we?
And don't we have other problems?
Exactly.
I want to ask you, because I listen to the podcast and I hear you go on about Trump. And I say go on because I want to know how the hell you move people to go vote and get him out of office. I mean, we're not a political show, but I'll just say it because my transgender friends, my LGBT friends, I'm in the LGBT community.
Yeah.
I'm scared. I'm scared.
Yeah. Well, you have reason to be. But he's going to be there unless people vote him out. I mean, it's that simple.
Simple as that. And how do you get young people to care about voting?
Well, I think
it's not just young people, but...
But I think, maybe I'm being optimistic, but I think people are aware. You know, when he won in 2016, people could say, well, we wanted something new. We didn't believe that...
It would get this bad.
Yeah, we didn't believe it. We didn't think he really believed that stuff. He's a showman. He says stuff. He's not really going to be that bad. It's worth a try. Let's see. He'll shake things up.
We'll try the guy who's never been in politics or something.
Today, no one has that excuse anymore. In other words, if they vote for him again, it's because they approve of discrimination, racism, and those kind of things. Otherwise, you don't vote for him.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of it doesn't make sense to walk back rights except for attention grabbing and keeping his base, I guess.
American history has always been the battle to give people more rights. You know, first it was to eliminate slavery. Then it was to eliminate the Jim Crow laws. Then it was to let women vote. Then it was rights for working people. Then it was rights, and then, the ERA. And now for gays. So it's always been, we fight to give everyone, we're moving towards fighting for equality. That battle has never ended, and America has never turned back. Even though there are people that always fought us, but they've never turned backwards. The scary part about right now is we have a government that is prepared to move backwards. Not a government that is prepared not just to give more rights, but literally to take away rights we now have. You know, women with their
reproductive rights and everything seems under attack. So, aside from driving the base, why do that? I mean, we worked to get all of this stuff in place for a reason, and there were people who had ideas before Trump.
Because the cultural wars are in full bloom, and people use that to identify. It's tribal, and there are people that are unhappy with a multicultural America. People are unhappy with what America stands for. They want to see. There are a lot of people that, frankly, just want to see America being white, Christian, their definition of Christian, and they don't want to see change. They don't want to see liberalization. They don't want to see immigration. They want to replace the Statue of Liberty, and for all that stands for, and they want to take that away and give us a wall instead.
Right.
And
It sounds so. And when you
it's
said
so un-American.
you talk about the definition, like how we identify Christianity. We talk about a lot about. Well, it's not a religious show, but it comes up on Out Cincinnati. It's hard not to. It stinks to criticize someone for the relationship with God. And me personally, I walk into a church and that's my relationship. And
Yeah.
I've been damned in the past,
Yeah.
and I felt. You walk in the door and you feel like you're on fire just because of you feel judged already. Let me ask you, what advice would you have for a 19-year-old Jerry Springer?
Well, it's a shame that it takes so many years to grow up.
Right.
So
Youth is wasted on the young, right?
Yeah, I mean, my thought is I wish I was as certain about anything today as I used to be about everything. I mean, one of the problems of youth, it's inevitable, but it's impossible to have perspective when you're 19. You just haven't lived long enough. So the only thing you know is what you've experienced, and obviously at 19, you've experienced a lot less than someone who is 50 or 70, etc. Okay. So therefore, your perspective is less, and therefore you're more certain about things, but you're certain about things because your experience has been limited.
So would your advice be to talk to people who have that POV, who are, maybe 30 years older than you are?
Be willing to listen. You can have your values, and because if you're willing to listen, you'll probably see other ways to get to where you want to get. No one has cornered the market on wisdom. And maybe wisdom comes a second before you die. Boom, you get a flash, and there is truth. We don't know truth.
And the takeaway is to listen and to keep listening.
And keep working towards what you want, but you don't start out a battle believing that you have all the answers, because no one does.
Let me ask you real quick, because I just read about the new show the other day,
Judge Jerry.
Judge Jerry. So what's that going to look like on TV?
Well, I started out as a lawyer, so NBC came to me and said, why don't you do a court show?
Makes sense.
And so I'm back to, and so that's what I'm doing. It'll start in September, and it's a daily show, just like, Judge Judy and all those, but it'll have, I guess, my personality, so my approach.
And have you talked to Judy about, have you said, hey?
Not since I got the show.
Okay.
But I'm going to do it, the way I would do it, but these are real cases, and so I have to be serious in terms of, I'll joke around a bit because I can't help it. But my decisions have to be based on the law, and I hope to be just and fair.
Okay. And where are you taping that in?
We tape it. They turned my studio into a courtroom.
Oh, okay.
And they rebuilt the whole thing.
Well, that's some paint job, right?
Yeah, it's paint and wood.
Paint and wood. Let me ask if I can get just for the Out Cincinnati audience, however you want to form a final thought. I'd love to hear one for our program, and I even have an outro for you if you. So it's easy. Whatever you want to, and then that'll be the last thing.
Okay. You have a right to pursue happiness and meaning in your life, and as long as you're not hurting someone else, you should be steadfast in that. You have a right not to be discriminated against, and if you have strong religious beliefs, then if God didn't want people to be gay, he wouldn't have made gay people. So the absurdity to believe that someone else has a right to tell you who you can love it's just that. It's absurd, it's unfair, it's unjust, and it can't be consistent with any moral standard. And beyond that, I would simply say, this is Jerry Springer on Out Cincinnati, and I want you to take care of yourself and each other.